You're listening to Puck and Roll.
Here's a breakaway for Tyler Toffoli, scores! And the Canadiens are on the board from their leading goal scorer a year ago, Tyler Toffoli.
One-timer, and that was blocked in front. Dahlstrom tips, scores! Right in front, and the flow, Michael Pezzetta, the Toronto boys got a goal. It's 3-0.
Hello, and welcome to the 10th episode of Puck and Roll. You may notice that you are not welcome by the soothing voice of Patrick Lorty this episode, and that's because I am going to be the guest host this episode, just so that Patrick can take a little bit of a break. But not to worry, he is going to start us off with his segment of the Habs Blitz, so you're still going to be able to hear his voice this week. And apart from that, we are going to cover the intra-squad game, the preseason games that have occurred up until this point, and a very special segment from Joshua Rosa about the OHL preseason game that he attended with a media pass. This should be a very fun episode, and we look forward to it. Now, first, we'll send this to Patrick Lorty for his segment of the Habs Blitz.
Habs Blitz for September the 28th. Not a lot to cover because most of the topics are already being covered by the amazing crew here at Puck and Roll. But the one topic that does need to be discussed is the one of crowd capacity. In the United States, most of the arenas are opening to full capacity with some very small restrictions, while in Canada, Calgary, Edmonton, and Winnipeg have declared that for the opening night, they will be running at full crowd capacity. While in Ontario, 50% crowd capacity will be allowed in Toronto and Ottawa, of course. In Montreal, we are still limited to 33%, which gives us an approximate crowd of 7,500 people. Unfortunately, however, the Quebec Public Health has declared that there are no plans to change this in the short term because, of course, with the holidays coming around, they're expecting yet another wave of COVID infections. So it remains to be seen when the day will happen when over 21,000 people will be chanting, "Go Habs, go." That's it for this week. Back to the show.
All right, Joshua, let us begin with the first preseason game. We can't fully talk about the second one because it is in progress during the recording. And I believe the score is 2-0 as of right now for the Habs. But the first game did not quite go as well for our dear Montreal Canadiens, losing 4-1 to the Toronto Maple Leafs, with the lone Montreal goal being scored by Tyler Toffoli. So, Josh, any players that you want to chime in about during that game?
It's hard. It was not a very good game for Montreal. They went I think 35 minutes without a shot during the middle of that. So what I heard, which is quite bad, and even our coach Dominic Ducharme said it's no one stood out. It's hard to stand out when you're having such a poor game that way. But I mean, the worrying thing to me was Cole Caulfield. He got a lot of chances that they weren't really even much threats of goals. They were missing the net and everything on a 3-on-0 breakaways, which is not really what you want to see for a guy like that. Hopefully, I mean, it's preseason. Hopefully he'll get it better together come regular season if he's in the lineup regular season starting off.
Yeah, I'm not overly worried about Cole Caulfield and scoring goals. Is kind of what he does. I was just happy to see that he got some opportunities and he got into goal scoring positions because that's honestly half of the work. And like as far as his shot goes, he like the chances are that he's not going to pull an Arturi Lehkonen and just start missing the net 95% of the time after scoring 18 goals as a rookie. Like that's not happening to Cole Caulfield. It would be unlikely and heartbreaking, but I really don't expect it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he's known for, his shot, but he's also shown such great playmaking and everything over the course of the postseason. It's not a big worry. It's just something that I've noticed, unfortunately. And there's just not much good to talk about. The goaltending was interesting because we always talk about Caden Primo being the next coming of Carey Price, and he struggled quite a bit against Toronto this game when it was surprising Michael McNiven was far better, except for that one little
we don't talk about the McNiven giveaway because he was spectacular apart from that. Like it was night and day between McNiven and Primo in that game. And yeah, I mean, McNiven has had such an interesting ride to the like in his professional hockey career since he graduated from the OHL, because like he's played in like how many different ECHL teams, because he was loaned out to multiple couple seasons ago. And then last year he was splitting backup starts with Vasily Demchenko. Like the guy has like McNiven, he's played well basically everywhere, and he just hasn't gotten that big shot. And then this summer, he filed for arbitration, which was just like weird, right? It was just like the strangest thing. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the goaltending battle will be like in Laval, because there's kind of a logjam with Primo, McNiven, and then we also have Poulin in goal, who has actual NHL experience that is a lot more than Primo and McNiven combined. And yeah, do you have any like hot takes as for the goaltending position, or are you going to play it safe with saying that Primo was going to be the main starter?
It's too early to say, really. I mean, he's still so young, Primo, and I don't know if I've ever seen such a log jam. There's like 4 AHL quality goaltenders that Montreal could choose from that there's only 2 spots for. Like, we've got the 2 spots in the NHL pretty much locked up, barring any injuries.
No one's dislodging Jake Allen or Carey Price, obviously.
Obviously, unless God forbid there's another injury again.
Which we don't. No jinxing.
Not going to talk about. Yeah,
we will not jinx anything on this podcast.
Yeah, so it's just I still think that Primo has all the tools to become a really great NHL player, but you have to remember that he was a 7th round draft pick, and there's a reason that he wasn't picked super high, but he's developed great, and I think he'll continue that way.
And he's still really young, and like Montreal management has said, like as recently as last season, that like they still want to give Primo a full 2 seasons in the AHL without like real NHL game time, because they just want him to develop. And goalies take notoriously long to do that, and especially with like the Habs goaltending situation of Jake Allen still being under contract for another 2. Is it 2 seasons or 3 seasons?
I think it's 2.
I think it's 2. I believe it's 2. And with another 2 seasons of Jake Allen on a very decent contract,
very surprising
at 2.85 million a year, like, I mean, that's totally fine, and it buys Caden Primo that time to just develop. And yeah, and like apart from just the goaltending, even though Ducharme did say that there were no standouts, I would disagree, because I feel like coaches are notoriously always the hardest on their own team. But one player that really stuck out to me was Gianni Fairbrother, who was, he was a 3rd round pick in the 2018 NHL draft. Or 2019 NHL draft. And so he is no longer going back to junior, so he's going to stick in the AHL this season. He's likely not cracking the Habs lineup, but he looked really good against some actual NHL competition. And I actually noticed a similar thing last season when he did play some games in Laval, that he was playing a lot better than like a player with NHL experience like Xavier Ouellet, right? Like, like Ouellet is not a player that ever looks very comfortable on the ice. Like he's good in his limited role sometimes, but he like Fairbrother, he's a decent skater. He has some interesting offensive tools, and he's like barely 6 feet. He might be 5'11", and
he's listed
he hits
right
like
at
a truck.
6.
Okay, he may have been like 5'11" up until this season, so he's like barely at 6, but he hits like a truck. Like this is like it's fun to watch, and it's not necessarily like he still has to mature and to know like when to hit, because he loves going for the hit, and he took a really stupid, ugly penalty against Ottawa during the rookie tournament. Of like, it was just a dangerous hit, and yeah, like he still needs to definitely start to control his emotions and to know when he should get physically involved. But again, he looked very good against NHL competition. Well, I mean AHL/NHL competition in that first preseason game. And it should be definitely fun to see what he does in Laval this year, because he should probably get like a regular third pairing role. And then when injuries and call-ups occur, like throughout the entire Habs and Rocket organizations, he's going to get time in that top 4. And it should be fun to see what he can do, especially with a bit of power play time, because I think he has some offensive skills that haven't shown themselves professionally yet. And he was actually drafted for his offensive ability. Like, you know how like the Habs before COVID, they always did like videos of like the draft table, right? And they kind of like discuss the picks. When they were going up into the Fairbrother pick, Trevor Timmins and Marc Bergevin were just talking about like, this is a guy that can score goals as a defenseman, and it was kind of their main draw to him. It was not the physicality, it was not the defensive play, it was the offense, which is still waiting to manifest itself professionally. So it should be fun to watch him. And another 2 guys that we kind of have to talk about here. One would be someone who is going for a roster spot this year in Ryan Poehling. What are your thoughts on Ryan Poehling, Josh?
I mean, it's so tough, because I think he could be a really great 4th line center on Montreal, especially in the future. I think he could be good 4th line this year. I just think there might be some growing pains that you have to live with, especially if you're going to put him on the roster this year. I think that he's going to make mistakes. He's going to mess up. He's not going to score as many goals as you want him to, like in his first full year really in Montreal, which was only about 50 games, I think. But
24, 27. It wasn't. Yeah.
Not even
wasn't
that
much.
much. Yeah. And I could see why he was put down. He didn't produce. He wasn't playing very well. But I think if you give him the chance, which is the problem because there's a lot of people looking for that chance. You got Paquette, you got Evans, you got Perreault, who are looking at that 3rd, 4th line center role. But I think if you give him a bit of a leash, tell him not like, don't worry, don't give him the worry about going down to the AHL. I think he could be a really good 4th line center in the future, but you have to deal with the growing pains now that he might exhibit this year. It's tough to say what's going to happen.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like the Habs can only keep 14 forwards up with the big team and like 7 defensemen. They might go 8 defensemen and 13 forwards. We'll see. But it also means that Poehling doesn't need to clear waivers, and that makes him a lot easier to move down to Laval. Plus, giving him a full AHL season to dominate isn't a bad thing. He looked great last year. Like the line that he formed with Joel Teasdale and Joe Blandisi was a great AHL line. It was super well balanced, very responsible. and very creative offensively. It was very fun to watch because they all had their individual strengths of Teasdale as a net front presence, and then Blandisi